Welcome back to Best Asian Horror Movies. I'm your host Blinky, and today we're going to be exploring Japanese techno-horror classic, Pulse. At the end of the video, we're going to give the movie our own rating based on story, atmosphere, and soul-crushing terror. Before we begin, please like and subscribe.
Thank you.
Pulse, directed by Kiyoshi Kurosawa, is a psychological horror film that explores themes of isolation, technology, and the afterlife. Set in a dark and gloomy version of Tokyo, the film follows several interconnected characters as they try to uncover the mystery behind disturbing supernatural occurrences. The narrative unfolds through two parallel storylines that gradually intertwine. The first follows Michi Kudo, a young woman who has recently moved to Tokyo. Seeking connection in a bustling yet alienating city, she finds work at a small plant shop alongside Junko Sasano, Toshio Yabe, and the increasingly withdrawn Taguchi. Taguchi, who had not been seen for a week, had been working on an important sales project which was saved to a floppy disk. Yes, this movie's very old. With the deadline to finish the project fast approaching, Michi hastily visits his apartment. Upon her arrival, she briefly interacts with Taguchi before rummaging through his workstation to find the disc. Shortly after, she enters his bedroom, where she discovers that Taguchi had hanged himself, his putrid corpse decaying against the wall of his cramped apartment unit. This tormenting discovery raises questions about whether the person she interacted with earlier was truly him or a dark imitation. After Michi's grim realization, the atmosphere grows increasingly sinister. Taguchi's floppy disk reveals an endless loop of him staring vacantly at a computer screen, while an ominous ghostly face appears in the background. Meanwhile, Yabe receives a distorted phone call, where the haunting plea of "help me" echoes incessantly. When he visits Taguchi's apartment, he discovers a black stain on the wall, the chilling residue of Taguchi's demise, and finds a note that cryptically warns of a forbidden room. Outside the apartment, he notices a door bound with red tape, which he ultimately cannot resist opening, leading him to confront a terrifying ghostly figure. Yabe disappears for several days, returning to the plant shop in a state of emotional despair. He cryptically warns Michi to avoid the forbidden room, but the spectral menace continues to encroach upon their lives. Soon after, Michi's boss also vanishes, and she receives a phone call from Yabe's voice, repeating the plea for help. Searching in the storage room, she uncovers another stain that recalls Taguchi's fate. In her search for clarity, Junko unwittingly enters the forbidden room, where she encounters the very ghost that haunts their world. Michi saves her from the encounter, but the trauma leaves Junko in a catatonic state. The second storyline follows university student Ryusuke Kawashima, who, after signing onto a new internet service provider, finds his computer automatically accessing disturbing websites filled with lonely figures in dark rooms. At the university computer lab, he meets Haruo Kurosawa, a postgraduate student concerned about the same phenomena. Later, in the school's library, he encounters another ghostly apparition, which can also be seen by an unnamed student. The student theorizes that the realm the ghosts inhabit has become overcrowded, forcing the spirits to return to our world by means of our own technology. The spirits, while simply seeking a way to escape their eternal purgatory, inadvertently cause anyone they come into contact with to essentially give up on life, ending themselves immediately or beginning an inevitable decay. As the apparitions are able to contact anyone with a computer, and with so many already living in isolation, barely existing already as they spend their days watching TV or searching the web, the lost souls are able to enter our world en masse in very little time. As Tokyo descends into apocalyptic chaos, Ryusuke and Michi inevitably cross paths while searching for Haruo, eventually finding her at an abandoned factory. Caught in the throes of despair, she mimics the fate of another ghostly figure she had witnessed on her computer, executing herself in front of Ryusuke and Michi. As they reach the shore of Tokyo Bay, salvation seems fleeting, but a ship of survivors offers a brief moment of respite. Yet, even as the captain reassures Michi of her worth, she returns to find Ryusuke forever altered, slumped against her wall. He dissolves into an ominous stain, leaving behind a haunting reflection of a fractured world. Alone in the aftermath, Michi finds solace in the knowledge that even in the depths of despair, amidst the echoes of loneliness, she hasn't given up hope. Far more than a ghost story, Pulse uses supernatural elements to explore loneliness and depression, offering a metaphorical exploration of how they manifest in a technologically dominated society. The central theme of Pulse revolves around alienation, which is symbolized by the haunting presence of ghosts who invade the living world. These spirits represent an oppressive force that both isolates and connects the living, creating a paradox where technology becomes a bridge to the afterlife, rather than a tool for communication between people. In other words, creating a culture where people waste their lives in front of their computers. Throughout the film, the characters are shown to experience profound isolation, not just from each other, but from their own sense of self. These characters are physically surrounded by people, but are emotionally distant, mirroring the isolation experienced by individuals struggling with depression. In their world, technology, designed to connect people, only exacerbates their loneliness, making it feel as though they're trapped in a digital void. In the film's mysterious digital art piece, we see white dots pulled towards each other in a desperate attempt to make a meaningful bond, only to be destroyed upon contact, symbolic of many individuals' fears of making human connections. The film's portrayal of ghosts is also symbolic of depression's suffocating grip. These spirits do not haunt in the traditional sense. They are not malicious, but instead exist in a limbo, unseen but always present, slowly drawing the living into their desolate realm. This mirrors how depression can feel like an invisible force that weighs heavily on individuals, pulling them into a state of emotional numbness, where even simple acts of connection seem impossible. Damn, now I'm getting depressed. I need a beer. Be right back. Here at Best Asian Horror Movies, we're going to be rating our films based on 3 criteria: story, atmosphere, and terror, with each category eligible for a maximum of 6 bloody skulls. Now, I'd put off watching this movie for a while because honestly, a movie about ghosts invading the world through the internet sounded really dumb, almost like a parody of a horror movie, but fortunately this was not the case at all, and the story is very, very deep. It's a very slow burn, and I think the film could have been just as good if it was 20 minutes shorter, but definitely a very interesting and unique way of using spirits as a way to explore loneliness and depression brought on by technology, especially in Japan with the otaku culture. Seeing floppy disks and dial-up internet presented as a new groundbreaking technology, though, was quite weird and made me feel very old. 5 bloody skulls here. Everything from the imagery to the score was just miserable. And I mean that as a compliment, of course. Prior to the apocalyptic finale, which honestly looked quite dated with the old CGI, we had so many depressing, dark, gloomy shots of empty and abandoned environments, of people or ghosts living in isolation inside tiny homes, the dark and eerie mood being further exacerbated by the haunting chorus and sound effects. The use of dial-up sounds as the basis for creepy sound effects was a great touch. Also, every time we see the skies of Tokyo, they're gray and sad, which has not been my experience upon my many visits there. Using the dark stains as markers for the last place where our characters were alive was also very, very creepy. No question here. 6 bloody skulls. It's not really scary, to be perfectly frank. No jump scares or holy shit moments, but certainly a lot of existential dread. I loved how all the sound cut out whenever a ghost appeared, and the way they moved forward so slowly, silently, and gracefully, phasing in and out of our realm was just beautifully haunting. This is another movie where the true horror doesn't hit you immediately, but rather comes to creep on you the following day when you process what it's really about. You know, in this case, depression and isolation. I'll go with 4 bloody skulls. Okay, that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you thought of the movie down below in the comments, and let me know what movie I should review next. I'm thinking of doing Detention, the Taiwanese ghost movie set during the White Terror. So yeah, let me know. Alright, have a good one. See you guys later. Bye.